Kadosh, Boker Or. I wanted to share with you a beautiful idea on this week's Parashat. We are going to speak about a very interesting mitzvah, which is Velo Techalelu et Shem Kodshi, which is basically the Isur, or a very strict Isur of Chillul Hashem. And Venigdashti Betoch Bnei Israel is the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. So we have something which is called desecrating the name of Hashem and sanctifying the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The strictness of being Mechalel Hashem Shamayim is brought down at the end of Masechet Yomah and also in the Rambam in Hilchot Teshuvah with the 4 different steps of doing Teshuvah, of having atonement. There we know that Chillul Hashem is so strict, more than everything else, anything else which is Chayav, whether it's all the 4 punishments of Bedin, whether it's Karet, whether everything. Think about it. The worst Averot, Avodah Zarah, Chillul Shabbat, Chilvei Kritut, right? Mitot Bedin. You have Teshuvah, you repent. You have Kippur, right? Which is going to be Tolim, which is basically going to make it depend. And then you have Yisurim and Marakim. Yisurim is suffering, is going to lighten it up. But on Chillul Hashem, only death can atone. Meaning it's not enough Teshuvah. It's not enough Kippur. It's not enough Yisurim. He needs to die. Death is the only thing which could atone for Chillul Hashem. If you do remember, we spoke about that it's actually the time of Nilah is the only time which could atone for Chillul Hashem. And the reason why is, if you remember, we brought down, I think this was based upon the Rabbeinu Machyai, if I remember correctly, because he says that that's the time when it's only us and Hashem. And if it's between us and Hashem, that he can atone for Chillul Hashem. But all the rest of the time, it's with his entire entourage, so therefore he can't. But there's a very, very special time only on Nilav Kippur that could be atoned for Chillul Hashem. What exactly is Chillul Hashem? The Maharil, Rav Yehoshua Lev ben Diskin, comes and he explains as follows. Chillul Hashem comes from the word of chulin. What is chulin? The Rambam says that when a person is going to be influenced by his friends, by the people around him, and then he's going to be mezalzel in something, he's going to disgrace something, whether it's going to be a mitzvah or an averah. So therefore, what happens is that you're mechalel the erech of the mitzvah or the chomen of the averah in the eyes of people, which means like this. Imagine right now you have a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? I'll just stum, we'll throw it a mitzvah. You have a mitzvah of eating melaveh malkah. Yeah, you have a mitzvah of honoring your parents. And now you have somebody come and he makes a joke about it. He disgraces it. Melaveh malkah. Yeah, you know how it was. The rabbis always just make excuses to eat. Judaism is based upon eating. He throws out a joke like that, but in essence, he disgraces the mitzvah, which means that the next time now, you might not have the same feeling anymore for the mitzvah, because I thought that this mitzvah was the most important mitzvah up here, and all of a sudden now I just made it as if cheap in your eyes. I made it disgraceful. So that is to do with the mitzvah. The same thing the other way around. A person thought that avirah, I can never do such a thing. I can never do such a thing. Somebody comes and they do that avirah. And you're like, how could you? He says, big deal. What's it? It's just not the end of the world. Everybody does it. So therefore, what did you just do? Beforehand, I told you that you took a mitzvah and you disgraced the mitzvah. Now you took an avirah and you made it very light in the eyes of the people. Says, that's a Chillul Hashem. Either or, again, for the mitzvah, to disgrace the mitzvah, that now people are not going to do a mitzvah, or they'll do it much more lightly, or the other way around, for an avirah, and now people will do the avirah because they look at the avirah much more lightly. In both cases, that's called a Chillul Hashem. What exactly is a Kiddush Hashem? The exact opposite. When you come and you act in the proper path, you're making it that it's precious in the eyes of people. They come and they see how you act. They say, wow, this is the way that we have to do mitzvot. This is the way that we have to keep away from avirot. That's called a Kiddush Hashem. So the Rambam comes in Hilchot Yisodei Torah and he says like this: Kol ha'over midato belo ones, halacha mikol mitzvot amuro b'Torah b'shat nefesh la'achis. Anybody that comes and does an avirah, stam. It wasn't that Stam b'shanev, as if like nothing happened. But to anger, to make Hashem angry, is mechalel et Hashem afilu b'tzinah. You're being mechalel Hashem, even if it's going to be privately. And if you did it in front of 10 Jews, mechalel et Hashem b'rabim. And the same thing if somebody's going to separate from an avirah or to do a mitzvah, not because of everything, not because of fear, not because, only because of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, just like Yosef HaTzadik separated himself from the wife of Potiphar, it's a Kiddush Hashem. He says, because now that he's stopping from doing an avirah, he's being mitkaber al Yetzirah. He's strengthening himself against the Yetzirah on his desires, on his will, on whatever he wants, on his midot, not because of anything else, just because it's a Rason Hashem. He says some people, they have, right, that he's not mechalel Shabbat, or he's not going to go pray b'tfilah b'tzibur. But that's not the nekudat bechira. He doesn't even feel that it's not good anymore. But something which is going to be nekudat bechira of the person, and he's going to strengthen himself, that is Kiddush Hashem, even biyachid. And if he does it publicly, it's a Kiddush Hashem barabim. So he comes and he says, the Rambam says, what is the case? What do we bring? Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef HaTzadik, it says, it appeared to him the face of his father. And he says, do you want to be that you're the only one that's not going to be on the Choshen? So what happened? So here you see here that even Schar of Onesh, and the Rambam says, he's doing it because of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, not because of Schar ve'Onesh. But you see from here, it's incredible what exactly is a Kiddush Hashem and a Chillul Hashem. So in the continuation of the Rambam, he brings a whole bunch of different things. What is exactly Chillul Hashem? And people are mezalzelim bazeh. And we're going to give a small, small dugma, small example. It says the Chazon Ish once said to do with using electricity on Shabbat through Mechaleh Shabbat. Right? That means besides the fact of Maaseh Shabbat, there's a Chillul Hashem. How could you come and benefit from electricity which is created on Shabbat? Now, obviously, here we're speaking about the Chazon Ish was speaking about in Eretz Yisrael, that all the different types of, the electricity, the electrical plants and everything was for Shabbat. So the other ones which are lenient, many times they say, okay, but they're doing it for the non-Jews, they're doing it for the people that are sick, and once they're doing it for them, so then you're allowed to benefit. But the Chazon Ish was very, very mahmid, and that's why in Israel, you'll see that a lot of places have generators. What is generators? And what happens is right when Shabbat is going to start, it turns on the generator, and right after Shabbat stops, the generator turns off. And it's making your own electricity, right? That's what it is. So he says, when people see the Chazon Ish, this Chazon Ish, they say, right, Mela, if it was going to be Maaseh Shabbat, okay. But if it's Chillul Hashem, it's Ashkafa. Well, we could work it out. Chillul Hashem, we could work it out. Why? But he says, one second. But the truth is, this Maaseh Shabbat is Chamur. Oh, you're right. It's only Midrabanan. But at the end of the day, it's Chillul Hashem, which is the Doraita. So therefore, you see from here, right, especially when we come out of the Bet HaMidrash to places and you start looking and they're looking at you. So therefore, they come and they start looking at how you act. That in itself, a person has to be very, very careful. Are you making a Kiddush Hashem or a Chillul Hashem? Very important. Okay? Once I heard a very, very strong question from Rav Naftali Kaplan. Yeah, listen to this. A very interesting question. Somebody that did an Avirah, but it wasn't Avirot Chamurot. Let's say he spoke during Chazrat HaShatz. He spoke during the repetition of the Amidah. Yeah, imagine the Shliach Tzibur is there, and he spoke. So he says, it's an Avirah. And the Zohar is very, very strict upon it. But it's not Avirot Chamurot. We're not going to say it's Gilui Arayot, Avodah Zarah, immorality, or Avodah Zarah, or murder. But if Reuven comes and he does it, and Shimon sees it, and then he does it as well, right? So you have a boy, he comes, speaks it, or he's learning, and then another boy comes and he learns because of it. It becomes a Chillul Hashem. He says, Avirah Chamura Shebachamurot. How could it be? How could it be that at the end of the day, I made somebody else do a very light Avirah, but then it becomes an Avirah of Chillul Hashem, which is a very strict Avirah, meaning the action that you did was very, very small. So how is it possible that you do a small action and all of a sudden it becomes big? How does that make sense? So he says, what it appears to us is a person has to understand how we are when we're in our society around us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the society around us, just like the Ramban says, at the end of Parashat Bo, which is like Kavod Shamayim in this world, which is like a tzibur. So the Ramban there is talking about picking up our voices in the Bet HaKnesset and singing to Hashem our tefillot. Just like it says, Sichu bechol nifleotav, which means that we have to sing right? All of Hashem's praises, all of his wonders. Or betoch rabim alelenu, where I'm going to come and I'm going to sing to him. I'm going to thank him in the multitudes. Everything which is in the Rabim. So therefore, if you're going to be Mizakeh Yehudi with tefillin, you have Zikud Rabim at tefillin. But if the Jew saw you put on tefillin, and because of that he put on tefillin, so that became a Kiddush Hashem. And the opposite, if you went and you spoke during Chazat Hashatz, right? Okay, you're over lifnei ver. But if you see somebody do it, and now he does it, that becomes now, right, a concept of Chillul Hashem. That means to say that in everything people learn from you, we don't look at the Chumrah of the Yisur. We look at the Lifnei Ver, which is here, right? Which is basically going to be that I cooled you down. And now you're going to do the Yisur much easier. And that's the exact same thing with Kiddush Hashem, right? The exact same thing. When I come and make it precious in your eyes, I just made a Kiddush Hashem. So when you're going to be in a tzibur, whether it's going to be in a yeshiva, in a bet knesset, bet midrash, you're going to be in a congregation. So he says, look how much achrayut you have, look how much responsibility you have in every single little tiny detail. People could be looking at you. It could be lashon hara. It could be letzanut, mockery. It could be anything, right? It could be even the way that you pray, the way that you talk, the way that you utilize your time. And every single little action can now become a Kiddush Hashem. So you thought it was a little tiny action, but all of a sudden in the Shemaim, it's a huge big deal. It's something incredible. And listen to this, yeah? The Shla Kadosh comes and he says that there's a special bracha for Kiddush Hashem. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher nishtav v'tzivanu lekadesh shemo barabim. To sanctify the name of Hashem in public. The Shla Kadosh even instituted a tefillah that he used to pray. And part of the tefillah was that he should be zocheh to give over his life for Kiddush Hashem. Because we have to live al Kiddush Hashem and we have to die al Kiddush Hashem. The Bet Yosef had a Malach HaMagid. And this Malach HaMagid of the Bet Yosef, right, he wrote a sefer called Magid Mesharim. And there it's written that he used to speak to him about. And there it's written about Rav Shlomo Malcho, that was living during the time of the Bet Yosef. He was zocheh to give up his life for Kiddush Hashem. So the Bet Yosef was very jealous. And the Magid said, I'm certain to you that you're going to be zocheh also to this. At the end, right, they changed it, and he's not going to be zocheh to die Kiddush Hashem, but he's going to get it. What was the zikui? That he made the Bet Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch. And once he made the bet in Bet Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch, that was a Sefer Halacha that was going to be for all of Klal Yisrael. Now, obviously, this beracha was made when a person was about to die. And they actually said that Rav Chanan Wasserman, when he had the entire group of his congregants, that they were dying with the Nazis, they actually came and they actually made this beracha. They made the beracha of dying al Kiddush Hashem. Meaning, imagine, they come and they say, what's your last wish? We're going to give their last prayer to God. Yeah, pray whatever you want to God. You think they care? Do whatever you want. They came and they made this beracha, right? And they did it b'simcha. They did it with happiness because they knew they were doing one of the biggest mitzvot of the Torah. The Gera Tzedek, right? We always speak about this person. This was the Graf Potatsky. This was during the time of the Gaon of Vilna. You remember the Get Tzedek Abraham ben Abraham. So the Gaon wanted to save him through Kabbalah Maasit. He was going to save him from dying in the dungeon and being killed. And he went and he said the opposite. He didn't want to lose the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, and he was doing it be'avar rabba b'simcha gdolah. And the Gaon came and he was megaleh so nora that the second that he was moser nafsho al Kiddush Hashem b'simcha, the ruach of the tum'ah became weakened, right? Which was on the yadayim before netilat yadayim. It's still here, but it's much more weak. What Kiddusha can one Jew do that he's Mikadeshem Shamayim? Think about it. A person that was a Goy Gamur, he could have in 2 seconds become a Goy again. And he came and he gave up his life besimcha, with happiness, with such a, and he did only for the name of Hashem. He weakened the impurity in the world. He weakened the tum'ah of netilat yadayim, right? Right? Why do we do netilat yadayim in the morning? Because of tum'ah on the hands. He weakened that just because of that. So imagine what power does it have, right? When we're talking about, right, the entire concept, or for example, I'll give you another one, right? He says in his Levaya, the Gaon wanted to say, Zot menuchati adead po eshev kivitea. When the Gaon wanted to say Sichat Chulin, he used to say Psukim, And then they used to know the kavanah of this. The gaon that all the Gionei Dorot, they were afraid of him, right? He saw the zechut to be buried beside him. That he was a Ger Tzedek for 3 years only. But he was zochet to give up his life for Kiddush Hashem. Meaning, think about it. The Gaon Mivilna, he wanted to be buried beside the Ger Tzedek. Beside this Ger, that he died al Kiddush Hashem. When Yeshivat Mir was in Shanghai, right, it was under Rav Chatzkel, Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, right? So what happened was is that when they got afterwards from Europe on everything that was going on, the Bachurim, they understood that all their families were destroyed. Think about it. The entire yeshiva left, and all their family members were killed, whether it's in Germany and all these, they were all killed, right? They didn't have mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters. There were 2 Bachurim that was very, very, very difficult for them. So they went into Rav Chatzkel to get chizuk from him. And when they were behind the door, they heard that he was crying, right? So they placed their ears on the door, and they heard Rav Chatzkel speaking to the Ribono Shel Olam. And he comes and he starts counting his rebbes and his friends and his family members, that they were all zochet to die al Kiddushat Hashem. And Rav Chatzkel was crying, saying, Ribono Shel Olam, they merited, but I didn't merit. What? Am I not worth anything? They just got the biggest chizuk that they ever got in their lives. They were broken because they just lost all their families. They didn't have any more parents. They didn't have brothers and sisters. They didn't have anything. They were broken. They come to the Rebbe to get chizuk. And behind the door, they already hear him screaming and crying. And they put their ear. They want to hear what's he crying about. And he hears that he says, look at about all his Rabbanim and all of his family members, that they were zocheh to die al Kiddush Hashem. They merited to die al Kiddush Hashem. So he says, what? I don't have that zechut? Why? Am I not worth anything? Why don't I have that zechut? They understood that look at the zechut they had. The opposite. Their family members had the biggest zechut to die al Kiddush Hashem. And even though it's difficult for us here in this world and all the other people but look at the merit of what it is. They got their chizuk. And therefore, when we came and we said about, right, the entire concept of Kiddush Hashem, we have to actually understand and say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're right. It's obviously a zechut to die al Kiddush Hashem. And throughout all generations, we've died al Kiddush Hashem. But at least, if we're not zochet to die al Kiddush Hashem, let's be zochet to live al Kiddush Hashem. And how are we going to live al Kiddush Hashem? Like we mentioned. Many times, even passive, we could come and we could make a tremendous Kiddush Hashem. We come and we act properly, and we are shomer Torah mitzvot, and we have nice midot, and we try to work on ourselves and to become better people. Without even realizing it, you don't know how many people are going to come and they're going to learn from you. They're going to realize what it is. There was once a rabbi, I just remembered of a story. There's a Kabbalah that whenever you remember a story, you have to say it. There was once a rabbi that there was a person that came to the minyan. Everyone always used to come to this minyan of nets. And this person just arrived in the nets minyan, and they realized that he probably wasn't the most religious person. So they didn't know whether they could really rely upon all the kashrut and everything. And all of a sudden, he had a yortzeit. He had a nachala. So he comes, he has a hazkara, he brings food and everything. So he comes and he puts the food there. So, right, he wants them all to make brachot. Now, technically speaking, you have a dilemma. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So the first person that he asked was the rabbi. So he comes, no rabbi, the chavod. Yeah, make the bracha. So the rabbi went and he told him, listen, he says, I want to make the brachot for sure, but I apologize. I have a Kabbalah that I don't eat before putting on Rabbeinu Tam. So if you don't mind, what I'm going to do is give it to me in a plate. I'm going to take it home. I'm going to put on Rabbeinu Tam. And after Rabbeinu Tam, I'm going to make a bracha. Right? Lilu Nishmat. So he wrote down the name, Lilu Nishmat, and he did that. And then the rabbi left. Every single person followed suit. Every single person did the exact same thing what the rabbi did. What was the rabbi teaching them? Instead of saying no, and he doesn't want, and then they start saying, he doesn't trust the kashrut, and he doesn't trust this. he went and he deviated from it in such a smart way. He was giving the biggest kavod to the person that he's taking it home to eat it even, but he really wants to eat it. And then he takes it. Now, what the rabbi is going to do at home, nobody has to know. But he did it in a way that he wanted the person to feel good. And then every single other person did the exact same thing as well. Now, obviously, you're going to have some people that know makpidim and they'll eat whatever it is. Fine. But at least the other people, they also did the exact same thing. In order that, again, because many times passively, you don't realize how people are going to come and they're going to copy your ways as well. But that's a Kiddush Hashem. The Kiddush Hashem is always having that there's going to be more Torah mitzvot, and the opposite of obviously the Averot, that you're going to be careful from not doing Averot Be'ezrat Hashem.